All right, assalamu alaikum. Bari mo ngal konton, ngal tol ngal konton lo. I hope you all can hear me. Evidently you would be able to. So we will get on the conversation quite briefly. But today we would want to just focus on these so-called three military witnesses, and we will give you some analysis on how a real military person would actually behave in a shooting incident like that. So we will play a scenario and tell you how a professional soldier should behave, in contrast to what these so-called soldiers told us that they actually did. The reason why we're continuing this conversation is that the court has decided that this case is not coming up until October, which is 90 days, 3 months. Now, just think about it. Everybody in the Gambia know that these folks have nothing to do with this case. They have been incarcerated for almost 1 year, 6-7 months now. They're not coming to court. No, one year, almost 9 months now. They're not coming to court until after 2 years of their incarceration. Because by September 13th, would be 2 years exact, and then they will only come to court 1 month after that. Now we're in July, August, September is 2 years, so they're like 1 year, 10 months almost in prison. And for a matter they know nothing about. But what is important is not what the government of the Gambia, the criminal government in the Gambia, has decided to do. Even though it's very evident to everybody that the government of the Gambia is responsible for the killing of the cops, we will just want to give you real-time analysis of what exactly a military person would have done compared to what this idiot said they had done. You don't need to be a soldier to understand this. Let's say, for instance, there is an incident like that and it happened in a particular location, Sukuta traffic light. And you have 3 military personnel who said they were coming from a particular location and they got to this particular spot. While the shooting was happening, they were present. When a shooting is happening, as a military expert or as a military professional, and you are within that environment, there are a couple of things you got to do. You hear gunshot, first observe your environment and understand the direction in which the shot is coming from. Now take cover. Now you take cover to know and of course to examine the environment or where this shooting is coming from. Now upon taking cover, what do? If you have no weapon, you cannot fire back. Now if you have no weapon to fire back, you cannot also go empty-handed running after somebody who has a gun who can turn and kill you, because you have no life vest, you are not in your military gears, you do not have any weapon with you at all. Your best weapon in that case is to hide and of course make calls for reinforcements or for whatever, backup. Even though it was not a military operation, but of course you as a military personnel who witnessed this particular incident, you had no weapon whatsoever. If it happens, you only need to take cover. Take cover because you had no weapon to fire back and you cannot pursue this person. The best thing you could do is to call. Now, in a Western setting like America, you only got to call, 911. Now in the Gambia, I do not know if you have like any call center like that for, a security, alert or whatever. But if you do not, I expect these military people to have their colleagues who would have been on duties, or they have, phone numbers to their sentries in different military installations. So the best bet would have been to hide and make calls for quick military, intervention. And then you have QRF. You have a quick reaction force in the military and of course in the paramilitary. So why then these 3 military officers make calls for quick reactions while they actually, observe the situation? No, they did not do that. Now, the funny thing would be, if one of these soldiers said the person that actually killed the cops wore a kaftan, and another military officer who was with him claimed that this person wore a yellow t-shirt or whatsoever. And we know why a yellow t-shirt, because your whole intention was to frame the United Democratic Party. But again, the whole point is, if somebody is firing, you had no weapon whatsoever, and then you had nobody to support you in that regard, what would you do? Is to take cover and make calls. Now, can somebody tell me that these 3 military officers who came to court and testified, did any of them mention that I tried to call for reinforcement? No. But I'm not in a call for reinforcement to come.
But they all have their phones because they were calling each other. You don't have a weapon. You are pursuing a gunman. How can you even pursue a gunman, a trained military professional who said that he's a gun mastermind, and of course he's a weapon expert at the military training school, but does not know that without a weapon whatsoever, the best bet you got is to take cover and of course to make calls, because you cannot fire back because you have no firearm, and of course you cannot go pursuing a gunman empty-handed. That is militarily stupid. So that means it did not happen, because if it happened, it is militarily stupid. Those folks got to be fired from the army because they don't understand what I, a civilian, would do better. But I mean, funniality is all cock and bull story. Now, explain this to a military recruit and they will tell you that these dudes are lying because they don't know what they're talking about. Explain it to a mere police officer who probably only learned how to do left, right, and go sit in an office or be a traffic police. They will tell you these folks are lying. Because there is no way that I would, be in let's say in a mall and there are shootings and I go pursuing the gunman. No, I will take cover and quickly make a call for reinforcement or probably for military or police intervention. I am not probably in that capacity at that particular point in time to pursue a gunman without any arms. Oto iman tonya for your So di jai param I saw one of them and then I wrote to him a message on Facebook. He refused to respond. And one thing that pleases me now is that Detective Ibu Sow, who was very key in framing Usainu Bojang, lying against him, formatting his telephone. Ibu Sow was calling a media house in the Gambia to tell them to remove his photo from a story about what he said in court, and then that was not favoring the police, and then his photos were actually on that newscast. He compelled that news outlet to remove his photos because Ibu Sow does not want to be recognized. But Ibu Sow, why do you not want to be recognized? Why are you hiding your face? You are hiding everywhere, even on your social media you are hiding. Bro, you cannot hide. Lena nak mo halako, yo undaw nga kom man. Yes nga man. Bone weex na mën a la tal, ñuul na mën a la kuk, fees na mën a la tepp, jeex na mën a la takk, xees na nag wax wala xonko na nag ñu ne la cuy, xees na nag mooy loolu. Pako, yow doo mën a nekk ndaw comme Usainu Bojang, nga nekk ndaw comme man, nga nekk ndaw comme keneen ak keneen, nga bëgg a ñoo jaay na yow yaa gën a réew Gambia pour di tuumal nit ñi ay doomi góor, ay doomi jaambur yoo xamante ne defuñ la dara simply because of your ethnicist behaviors within the police force. We got to tell the truth to each other without any fear of any contradiction. Because aduna lena rek mo mona am. Ika kibaya nyaming ika molle domanding ika kutu kuye yaje ko yaron ko dol bi jol manjarala bar ne wonten ne mbala firmo do ron non anybody can do anything. Mo bele balo sa firino mo bele sa wulno ka wulya la wandi molu kanke just to incarcerate them simply because you have position of authority. You have the audacity, the guts to format Usainu Bojang's phone, and the judge had the audacity to actually post that case for the next 3 months as though he's going for a vacation. I don't want to get to that point, but you can go for whatever vacation. But I mean mo tonya de wala nyinteko albe tonya tamani la nyinke stole. And pleasing to hear is that we have written to a lot of international, institutions, donor partners to the Gambia, partners who are involved in governance in the Gambia in one way or another, the diplomatic mission and so on and so forth. And we are getting responses from a couple of them. And you know what is interesting? Most of these folks are already following this case and, of course, knowing what we are saying. And in some of their letters, it's like, you know what, we appreciate your continued advocacy for justice in this case. And we have been following the case. That tells me enough that, of course, the international and the diplomatic mission in the Gambia is keenly following Usainu Bojang's case as they put in their letters. What of Gambia mansa kundal sa minin tafal albe tonyala tamandla jang. Allah wuliana Allah double double. The whole world knew that this government is manipulative, it is deceitful, and of course it's built on nothing but lies. Ndeysaan ali wala ke janna ko ke sana fadera. I remember when we were at the UTG, he wanted to be student government president and I was his backup speaker. Very, very humble young man, very respectable and very respectful to people. al jeki da drong al ko is going to do a coup ali on nimmo ko dong mo min yal dole be je wol fallen dol karan dara ali wol muta jala mam mi ali dole bule ko al jeki da kare sana fade da soron al ko lafta coup de dala kala a be fanya. This government is built on lying against ordinary citizens just to maintain economic presence in the Gambia. But after 10 years economic will not continue to exist in our country. What a kenola. Because no government is there, no president supposed to serve more than 10 years. And those are part of ECOWAS protocol. So therefore, we will not maintain ECOWAS after 10 years. And then the funny thing is, you have the dumbest CDS in the Gambia. Amanta adiala de mba fola la kanya nda fola nyami. Mane, nalia mol pousse, de wolen pousse ni be ñu sesimir bi amul dara lu ñuy ragal fini. Ay tapet deguñu fi. Almo wala long because ni mol ke de ke kam malala molon ke they just like go things. It doesn't mean that dañ leen ragal wala da ngeen atol mu fennati mol manke no minti wala kudo. Al manke fenna fendi na manke tapale man sakunda sun sulutol ni sun kanyangol min balla man sakunda wuliani tapale ya with negative ethnicity ko don tamanda la man sakunda kurun man sakunda bu gena yesi aduna bi amud amud bu opo bu adam baro bi ngir bu ñaka xam-xam ci aduna bi amul ku ku raw adama baro government bu bon ci aduna bi amul bu raw adama baro wherein inequality, poverty, and of course seizing people's lands and sharing it among your ministers, taking people's properties and demolishing and destroying them. That is the government that is supposed to be serving people. Nguru bo xamantene ID card sa mënu loko joxal sa wari yow lan nga ñu mëna defal. Nguru bu gëna yési aduna bi, is that of Adama Barrow. Waye nak wax bi fu mu nekk moy ne da ngeen rey police yi, ngeen jël soldat yi ni yóbbu leen toog yi, as a compensation, ñu ñëw dem si court bi di fen foofu noonu because yow soldat naka ngay nekkee di daw si gannaaw yi koo xamante ne kooku fetal la yor te nga gis ko mu ngi rey ay nit yow naka ngay toppee kooku. Mentally you cannot even do that, and that is why the guy came to court and he was lying because he said he got battle shock. Gis nga battle shock boo ko amee you don't pursue the person who is basically shooting you. You either just thief at one place or basically you hide and that's just it and you are nowhere to be seen. You cannot have battle shock at the same time you are pursuing the enemy. That cannot be possible. That's a lie. It's a fabrication. We don't need to be soldiers to know that. But since the beginning of this case, we are able to read a lot within and around criminal justice procedures and of course criminal justice systems around the world and to see how the criminal justice system of the Gambia has been operating. Abuka kefendi naman ke tapalianim bandiyanim kuriat. So what exactly will this government of the Gambia tell people? Go. If the opposition is unable to, young people got to stand together and of course bring a regime change in that country because this disgusting regime cannot and will not serve the interests of the common man in the Gambia. No hamantane welka police will jibe, they wear uniform to come and serve their country to kill them simply because you hate the opposition political party. And then all of a sudden you will adjourn the case for 3 months. You expect a lactating mother to sit in prison for another 3 months with the brother for nothing they know anything about. For 2 solid years, they are in prison for what everybody in the Gambia knows that is not true. Why Gambia la bo nyama? Ko jog ni nane ay julit lañ ko wuli ko ngay ko biti ko wuli wala xam nga do na manke ka fonda bo sa duma ka wul na bo je ala nya silam fo man siantol kono because you see people many along. So those are things that we basically need to pay attention to. The fact of the matter is that these military officers were lying to the teeth. And some of them we know were complaining bitterly about the regime. But of course we know some of them were part of all the WhatsApp groups of the NPP. Go bi wal tal hombo ni no la jede. Gis nga aduna. No lon kunda konto ñi nga taje. Adol yamu dal ko ngol jaatale mané. Deger bopa ku nekka mëna deger bopa. Waye boy mag rek da nga di xaworus nga bayé nay. Waye yeen genul leena xam ñi lu ngeen di doxale réew mi ci jib ko tapale yi ni some of these criminal doings atol ma ñameng fang your military witnesses are just the dumbest in the Gambian armed forces. Your ballistic examiner is the most disgusting military major I have ever heard of in the Gambia. And today I'm going to focus on the Gambian National Army. Ken ragalu len fi de amu len dara lo len xam ñu ñi xamul kon doxal len dega. Masane kinde mo yahon ami bi mu dem talk TRRC as the first witness and then with a doctored voice and of course in camera. Waro be mu esa falla tapale yana la bandi yani la kurialete because Masane Kinte served in Yaya Jammeh's regime and they did all kind of things to Gambian people. All of a sudden that is the person you will have to hide his face. What is that if not negative ethnicity? Oh, it's other people. Nyumbabu karjada ngendi toglo al kalkul le malu ni dada bar masane kinde mi yalan ko he served on the Jammeh for almost 4 years. After jongola ñu fofu non di def nakas dudul non. Why do len ñoo toglo ko laajte ko dega bi why da ngeen ko ne you hide his face and of course put a doctored voice and you think Gambians wouldn't know? And that is your smartness, Isafal, thinking that you know something better than Gambians. No, you might be very good at asking questions, but some of those things, they are logic. It's just logic. Law is basically, the legally written, instrument, and of course, logic. You put law and logic at play, that is basically what it is. Nothing more. So Senjiko Tapaleyo, Lalani Masakunda was built on lies and fabrication. That is why you will deliver nothing on the TRRC. You will deliver no fucking constitution. You will deliver nothing on all these little recommissions you are putting up again. Because Ngurbu yes, Rekamona defli. Yonga Tahawal Commission, be commission bigia. No taxi commission no Tahawal Commission against those people again. That tells you how disgusting the regime is. And part of those assets we are actually taking by the head of state himself. Ngeen tok na ne da ngeen di defar loi ku len saga ngeen tejlu ñooñu nonu waye bo len ñu sagé dara du ci xew. Are you people working for the Gambians or working for yourselves? That you people can go into the Gambian National Assembly ragalu len titu len ngeen ne da ngeen di defar loi bo xamantene ku len saga rek ngeen tejlu ñooñu waye yeen kay mun ngeen ñoy sagande dara du ci xew mun ngeen ay sacca suñu alel dara du ci xew yeen ay ñan idiots who know nothing. Some of them whom you would have taught in university cannot even pass exams properly. Could sit and tell us that, you know what, if you insult us, you go to jail, but if we insult you, nothing is going to happen. You're not going to do and you want people to watch you. I think, that youth, whatever group, Gala, your people need to take charge of that country now. Bataraya Dangambia. Hey, freedom and revolutions don't actually begin basically sitting at home or on the social media doing whatever. You people got to inform and communicate to this government in the streets to understand that, you know what, enough is enough. Tapalayan in Tilimbalian in Joyan in Hashidian Bimbanko Kanyanda Danali. Most of them Barola Masakunda, Maliman Seleka, Luka Moleko, you are going to what people who are going to, try to be obstacles to your third term. Itamam Maliman Sela, you don't even have the conscience and the shame to tell that to Gambian people. I'm going to kunyaka gomiyala rek mo muna melni. Albi wala nyama ni mole sembo diala camera ko is your biological inheritance. Why do we have de? Dekabini. To nyambe wala tamane la jang. This government is the most disgusting government that Gambia has ever had since its birth. But let's bring it into context again to these military folks. Like I said, the Gambia CDS is the most disgusting, dishonorable, and uninformed person who has zero military intelligence. Why did I say so? And he's throwing this government under the bus without knowing. Imagine the CDS going to meet officers and soldiers in a town hall where the soldiers are expected to tell him their problems. Military problems are not for the public. But what did they do? They brought in cameras, put everything on a videotape, while the soldiers were telling him, even uniform combat boots we don't have. For the last 8 years, the Gambian military has been disarmed simply because they want to protect one greedy man who feels that he can continue to be president for 15, 20 years. That is why the Gambia will not have a new constitution. That guy is a complete failure. Every commission that he has established has failed. And of course, even beyond failure, they've looted our resources and now they are establishing other inquiries into people who said looted assets were looted by themselves again. You can't forget. My opposition party in a Batambedu line fi defend. Batambedu no manta eta burde sorong mole mile 2. Alma mol tenkondi. Hey. Momanta sila la mola jande. Ano momanta mo nyako na jibela jande. The common denominator is the Gambia. People support you here and there. You people got to do justice to this country. Why nonsense? MYE. Look at this local government, commission. And you know what they do? Oh yeah, we have a big project. It's probably 13, 14 million that we are going to use to get, dustbins. Okay, how do we go about that? You will go and tell your little brother, or you go and establish a company in the name of your brother so that you can come and give that contract to your brother. Corruption la tambira wala nyom rohilo. Yo nyo hamantene yo jigen yo nga wara, yerm jigen yo nga wara am yermande si Gambia ni yo nga wara xol ñi lu ñoy sonno si deka bobu non. But you want to become the mastermind of corruption and corrupt practices in our government. I told someone phone no come out of Baro Koteng. And I am Kubada and the latter order. Okodo ke buga fanyafo. Okodo ke buga mola fen sunya. He doesn't steal and he doesn't lie. So he's a credible person to vote for. And then he has the interest of West Coast region. I think the people of West Coast, we need to look into some matters that we need to have a president too. Because I samba boy you didn't fini, didn't you fini, such a imagine taking our lands in prime locations, sharing them among ministers. Look at the depreciation rate of the Gambian dollar. Look at how the price of common goods are in the Gambia. Look at cement at this moment. Cement you can have that 500 or 600, 700 to buy it. You cannot even have it. That you have to go give all your money and then wait to be called to have cement in the Gambia. This is the level of backwardness your government has brought us. But he doesn't even know what is going on in government and you want to continue to be president. How can you not even have sympathy on the people that you don't know and you cannot do it and you got to leave? 10 years woman kanya ko hani fayde continue simply because yen sacha aleli rew mi rek ngeen fa nekké ngeen fogné lolu rek ngeen fa wara continue lolu motax ngeen rey police nak buga tumal UDP ngeen xamné lolu da ngeen ci fil ngeen buga ko tek Ousseynou Bojang do fi dox aduna bi yeb xamna ko nak ñun wax nañ né bu dé xex la dañoy xex ba fu mu jéxé albalo man firintit ani na computer na telephone fara bin sida telephone doli ñinna dunya be wala ñama kon the military witnesses are liars and the CDS know very well that they were lying and of course the CDS enabled that whole criminal enterprise. Because how can the CDS, the police, write to the office of the CDS for a ballistic examination and the military, not knowing anything about this case, came out to say that only 3 bullets came out of that gun. But of course, 3 other military witnesses one would come and say, oh, 5 shots he made in the air. Another would say about 6 shots he made in the air. But of course, one would say he wore a haftan. Another would say, oh yeah, he wore a yellow t-shirt. But you cannot even tell who the person is because it was dark. It was dark, but you can see him killing people. And of course, you can start following him and then you know that he was shooting at you. Façon fen yo même xalé bu ndango ko wadu na xamné yow da ngay dul. Why yen gen sold ñun sun uniform as our Gambian military and be lying to the teeth to the population like that? You people should be fired. Why lena na ngeen xam go? Man sa killing jamane bu ka dunia bang. Adam Barola Masakunda Banana Masakunda Kotambena Latol Mimbe Nara to testify in this case. We will prosecute you and put you in prison because you are all fabricators and collaborators in this in making sure that this heinous crime was committed by the regime. Kon yan lolen mona lolen ñu mëna wax sankare dama mol man sele ko ka ko mol ko da bala duwate balete wandi balla sorom min ya lon ko bulu medo simmedo ni mol yo ke da bala obe diale del am di am man da diala de anda man da ñi ñala de tilimbalia la ka bang batari am ba Gambia batari ala badanna. You cannot continue to respect people and treat them with utmost decorum when they treat you like you are an idiot, you don't know what is happening, to actually go and then say, you know what, this case is not coming up until after 3 months. What nonsense is that? But this is the same judge who Batambedo played with and of course made him unfreeze some assets so that they can go and sell it and then so that his girlfriend can make a lot of money and then he will turn around and go and marry her and make it look like, oh no, how much is that? Withdraws an endorsement from that person and you have somebody telling us that no, the government should not do that. The government should not just do that. The government should incarcerate Batambedo and put him in prison. I really jarendare mini tafal to nyala bella bana tol min dara ya jamal bagasul mon ali be wafum ali be sunya nyoko do matla dol bi jal kila wala ka momal balle fama be la ya jamal matla kay da ko mo falat. And some of you will buy some of those cars and tell people that, oh no, I bought them for how do they even call it, for closure. Imagine, it's just like Ousseynou Bojang coming out of jail and said he's going to buy, a mattress from DIG so for closer. What nonsense is that? I would DIG so la buka malwa mansila ite dingol mun dol fulangol ite ka si ko wulia la Ousseynou Bojang nakang for ite forolon di kiti bon ite malu mansila you still wear uniform and go and sit in the police headquarters. Every police officer will be looking at you and saying, look at this motherfucking liar. Wala mutonyati yow rusulo yow xamulo dara loy xalat yow nga dem di fenal ay domi jambour ay domi gor ñoo xamantene defuñ la dara rusulo ragalulo yow and then you pretend to be a believer in God. You people don't believe in nothing. Ay samba boy ngeen ay sacca kat ngeen ay ay sacca ale rew mi ay reyukati nit ngeen because these young people who left their houses to come and work for the police force out of nothing, and then now it did not work. You had to be called to come to court and be questioned, and you start saying, I don't know, I don't remember. When did you have dementia? When you were talking about your codes, a bit funny, I can say, you are asked about the codes, you cannot even produce them. And you are telling people that, everything was based on verbal intelligence. Let me tell you one thing about intelligence again. When an incident like that happened, and you do not know at the point of the incident who committed the crime, at that period, whatever information you are seeking would be considered intelligence. That is information seeking and gathering. At that point in time, those are intels. But whereas you actually captured Usainu Bojang and brought him under your custody, after that, any information you bring out should be facts and evidence and not intelligence. Yen Bolen don't have send press conference, intelligence was outdated. Whatever that needed to come out would be evidence. You cannot call that intelligence in court, because the court knows what intelligence is, and then the court knows what facts are. Because when you already captured Usainu Bojang that he is the killer, and then you are actually going to prosecute him, you would have been investigating him. And during that investigation, whatever you come out with will not be an intel. It will be like classified information of facts. But you people could not present any facts to the Gambians, but all you presented was your lies and fabricated script that you masterminded and killed the cops to frame the United Democratic Party. And then you had the audacity and the guts shamelessly to tell people that, oh yeah, he said he acquired the weapon from a long time and he was with this weapon at the court case in Banjul, trying to taint Yankuba Dabo, somebody who is doing very well for the people of the West Coast region. Go and hold a Nawek poll. I don't care about what you people think. More so you little surrogates of the NPP. Hey, bala firingo mobile wono alta mulla mudala batara ya kono ali wol sorong alko mota fem fala nanne adunta jabota jana. Who is going to support a regime that is busy killing and of course jailing people's innocent brothers and sisters, and you expect them to be quiet about it? My Elena, I know Hussein might stay a little longer in prison, but I know the dude is pleased that he is not abandoned by his community. When I say community, I don't mean the whole community, because that community is what it is. But that folks still out there who would leave everything they got to do to make sure that he gets justice. And that is a commitment we will take, and then we will follow to the letter. Sometimes you're far away, and that's how people would think, maybe because you're far away. That would actually solve everything. As if you are going to screw us. I am not one person to be screwed. Ask people who know me better. I samba boy di talk di jima jaay na comme yeen da ngeen am fit yeen amu len fit de yeen ay tapet ngeen tapet moy rey doomi jambour ba pare di fen gis nga ko am fit loy def rek da nga koy ñame, and then you assume the full responsibility for it. And I saw some people sending me messages, oh yeah, we saw you wishing this General Musa Savage happy birthday, why mom mo fi waxone yeah jameni ak ni am nga yeen da ngeen intelligent lolu moy sen problem. And because you deal with things with emotions and not facts, and you don't really reason. One thing I would say, if I was General Savage, I wouldn't actually grant that interview, because you are a military general. And while it was a transition period, and that transition period, like somebody lost election and probably said he did not lose and trying to make life difficult. If somebody calls you on whatever on a TV, I'm not sure if you know that they were putting you on a TV spot. But if they did put you on a TV spot without you being aware, nobody should fault you. But whereas you are aware that this is what they're actually doing, and they're asking you about loyalty, whatever, when a man who actually lost power, whom we know how powerful he is still in the country and still in charge, and they wanted you to say what you are loyal to the incoming government when this person did not even transfer power yet. Only a dumb military man will do that, and what you did was the best thing to do at that time. That does not mean that you actually owe your loyalty to Yaya Jammeh. You owe your loyalty to the Gambia, which most of us can attest and have proofs that you are basically somebody who loved that country beyond any of these idiots who will talk shit about you, including Masane Kinte, who basically came, cowardly to the commission with a doctored voice. Ken ragalulen fi. I'm not even a soldier. Why Masane yo wa kenen ak kenen lolen gom lolen mun ken amu dara lolen mun nit munut fi. waaye dëkk boo xamante ne doo leen ko di doxal si digga albuke miratol yamina komino o buku nek mañade o kun tekirmo ni tay ni minade da kun kono do wala mo toñate don ya buka tamo nyama. In life you got to reason, you got to calculate, and you got to know where to place your leg at every given circumstances. And that was the best perfect thing that some of them could have done. Ale mi ke deputy CDS ni ku ko tangol ti jang ñom seen ñaa ñu daw dem Sénégal nak ñoy soldat buy daw ya jame nana duma waje ngeen di daw wala di daw soldat day daw wala na yal be dis amal be siri ñanal man kane buke la buketi ani uniform o fangal buka so nan combat al buka dinu alla recruiter la juma la ron fan dry raso na seke lo al ko wala ma. But let's give a comparative analysis here. There was this young man in the military who sat and he was kind of talking to the business community, pleading with them, minti da ma $5 or whatever, ala domon al business or al price or data la. You fired him for telling that businesses are actually charging too much. They probably pleading with them to reduce prices because Gambian salaries cannot afford nothing. You fired him from the army. But how about the CDS sitting and having all soldiers telling him that we don't have uniform and we don't have combats and we are suffering? Why didn't you fire all those soldiers? Because amulen sense. That is how disgusting the military establishment in the Gambia has been under this regime. And this is a free or official adult. It's not everybody. We are talking about leaderships. Police will welcome more file like then they use the military to go and do the ballistic examination to come and cover the lies. Some of your military camps don't even have running water. You are trying to cover up all the nonsense for this government. Look, when they came with that ballistic examination, tell them you don't know, or you give them the facts. But then lying to the teeth and trying to make it look like you're covering up for the government when it is known to even the lowest ranking soldier in the army that, of course, this is masterminded by the regime. You don't need to be a soldier to know that. I'm not a soldier, but I know that's exactly what happened. Because we can connect dots and we can tell what is possible and what is not. Because there is no way that a soldier without a gun can hear bullets firing and then he start running after the gunman. Even the dumbest civilian will not do that. So what will be more funality, and that is why Sankare, DIG Soning, Abu Bakar Jangi were brought to the court, and of course your videos were played for you to listen to yourself and of course be asked questions. Nimmalo battle do tenatol fada silam bara mummal balol la malti. Tamanta sila lalat amud daralo finit diragal. Amud daralo len ham lu ñi xamul. Amud daralo len mun lu ñi munut. Yaga dégg rek mooy mujjee comme nuñ ko waxee rek ay tapet dëkkuñu fii comme ni ka kee waaya ñaame ka malle ka kuudool tujee doron ba nim bala firingo nim batara ya doron no mo bela so keno woto masakunda buka tama nim batara ya alba batara ya la tula jee al na la National Assembly belom kasi kalwal dada ka ko nim mol yatol ne ngatol bugol sorana, and now you are prosecuting a woman for actually saying, oh, she insulted the president. Mane nal mala fi moy fem fal mal mon la banko la fem la bulal ta si yalla kordal ko na la jibe fu mo bina la jere kuma falma bala ka mon la banko talal dam malte ma ka mon la nafulo be sunya al sun suluto la ko moto fol al be palasul talal ba dilal dingol na ba dingol na la musolda al ko molta fem fol wor. You know what they do now in civil service? There is what I call civil service barter trade. Ki dafa nek director ci institution bi ni mu call benen director bi fele ne la jelal suma dom ma jël sa dom i camera swap deal is barter trade da tara sen dom yi xamul xamuñ tous saram dem xamuñ ko en ngeen ne noonu ngeen ay doxalee suñu réew mi loolu moo tax réew mi mu ngi taxaw demut fen coono mu ngi gën a yokk, poverty is increasing, inequality is increasing, the poor is getting poorer, and of course the little few elites who basically know how to manipulate the system are actually doing better, and of course predominantly the main sponsors of the regime. Loolu moo tax nga Keba Madi Bojang tentu Keba Madi ñenna ko moom mvananda ke la patito ha ntolla tetel la ibote ko nyami woyon kontan baki mo kurungol la midi tapalel la midi mo tilimbalo la midi mo falal la midi yow ke ku baki ha alko mo bayim bayon kale mo nyini mo be bo adam baro nala masakunda to kadu masakunda kenden tengi mantra ku kende ke kangam bian koliye momi yalon ko mol mi ya kata e kutu kata la kay ko bekete pour que te manse ni te muru ita ka mol fa pour ko tumi so ni te ni mo ko den ko te mo kendol te den kay o mari nyanta fa jibe kula de atol man kende ya hando mon den kende ya talla ko do so what atol mo falla let and then you got to be treated like that. Back then I saw some little idiots who would say, oh yeah, you're talking too much about who killed the cops, you know, you want me to give you the cops numbers. And I've seen people back then, anytime Kex post about this case, they will but simply because they live somewhere else and they of course support the regime, they could lie. Now all of them, you don't even hear anything from them. And then, you know, among the is both government and opposition. Look at it. You know, some of these brutal facts, we got to say them. Look at the local government commission. Talibite o mere no membela do ko la ibade ngoni imala yum contract si fala di wala minni silo ne sartol manta o famo tapale yani bandi yalat. Arambaro ite o kay ite ke la niece and nephews yol samba jiare nun la ko dangol la man sakunda police ol falo mo la na flo sunya la kadiata la nyame e kam mo la banko ta ke fon toke je ko del tam ela o minister of former minister of tourism adi mo ta wasamba jiti boda ko ha Gambia no la mati. So what I'm saying, National Assembly wale mola dulal taye moto le sangi fangole nyim moto bab moto garawre mbal e ka clothing allowance di fangola ni mburonde ko ka fondin kelle ko wala mu cockroach sollate e ko lu wala da pour ni moye tol neng e de sorom bara ni tole mol neng kuta kala woto. So this is not even animal farm. This is like, you know, subjugating our people. This is kind of pinning our people and of course forcing them to accept a norm. Abukolo ko yele ni so mi muta efen ko dunda anu ko ne ka sabadiate dawda anda ta fem fono la ta balanola. Atole Gambia no muta wolte wala Gambia no nyanta atole bayla masakundale. Those in the National Assembly and as well those in the central government, as in, you know, the executive and you know, the judiciary wanta fem fono la wala kudo. Kadu George Sifala board la wala fuda dunia fema beti. Tilimbali ya mimboto one na manso do dunia dula wala atina okumba siyan kesa mala fito nya taman laje. Bare mol nya balale sabe duma simbe duma. Yaga dega rek moy mujje. En ñi ngeen buga doxale suñu rew mi. Ndolo man tan de. And then we are making sure that the whole world knows what is going on in the Gambia. And we are pleased that that is happening and everybody is telling us we are actually closely monitoring this case. Kon nolen munti pisit pasala beto nyara tamandila you those military witnesses afon ali ala Facebook ñol dili de ala ndewo ndala balo film dalde ndaka na la inbox la nga fay ko mo retel tara ñun la ko etam witness wala ita ñoo wulu buke what exactly would yo boy yu ndaw yi ni ngo kidi table fen table sal ju fara to ñu sojare nim fuuri ngolo akara wul ya sifa bela mol kam for nothing imam mali man sila, you know, e kana lo e ka foko, you know, half time la sol wala num to that 3/4 la sol, you cannot even tell people what happened. And then in real time, you know, incident response ni incident lo keda jam the first responders when they arrive they are supposed to basically, you know, secure the area. Now when they secure the area, this is the area where these people die, right? They need to take a lot of photos and make sure that they gather all of those evidence. Do you know that there is no photo evidential record that was actually submitted to the courts? Karata fola ko wali o sabo be bunay be fahan yelo mambo atolo mo natal. Almurun dal ko combat boot, because you heard people, some people say he wore a combat boot and then dolba fola haftano lo don. You heard the combat boot dorong al buku ne ko al tole mal al nyame mbalolu al tara dorong al tara wala su kon ali akodo mala combat boot o jeje do ali wo cikal ko wala dum atoli wala sinno tara wala bar wo sinno ni nan natalo fon tatolo bul atolo nyaw wulol lebe keri Gambia masakunda wuli yala tambira wala yo Adama Barrow ñu fen yooyu noonu yëpp yow yaa ngi toog yaa ngi leen ay xool nanguloo la naa daxa nanguloo la naa prosecute for giving false information to the public, but you give them more position and power and authority in our country. That means you are complicit in the killing of the cops, because you know why you people had to kill the cops. Someday, somehow, you will be accountable to the killing of the cops. Your government will be accountable. Emusu wamandara ni mansa kundala pala suda na dara lokta anol doldo ko be fen ko la wala ni o jibe camera ko But fast forward, what were we able to tell you? That the military cannot in any way, without any weapon whatsoever, start pursuing a gunman who has a gun and can kill them. The best thing you could do is to take shelter and make calls, which they did not do. And none of them could say that when that incident was happening and then you had that whatever battle shock and all of that, but none of you made any calls to anybody to inform them for any quick reaction force, for any, QRF response. None of that happened. So if you tell this to an ordinary military instructor, he will tell you, "Wulialo mutonyanteng tonya tanolamati, oto alman tonya fo aliye fani, aliye wuliala la usino bojanka wala naliala telefono format." But the British lady would testify in court in October. And of course, Mama Jabila audio atolo minko affiliate atolo man sakunda mole mini alonko police ol fangol lea transcribe. You see, the good thing about this case is that the police themselves within the police force know that their leadership killed the cops because they were involved in investigating this matter and they can tell what the facts are. Because they kind of transcribe this particular audio and they know everything that is in the audio, but their own leaders turn around to say that the audio is lost, and that is the lies they told in court. But I have the audio, all the people within have the audio, and then we are submitting this audio to the court, hopefully, and then Mama will be called and Usenu Bojang will be called, where Usenu will clarify that, yes, this is my voice, and I was speaking to Mama and Alfusenu Dari, and Mama will have no whatsoever to deny it, and then it will be established as a fact, and there is no part of that audio where Usenu talked about killing the cops. And this is the specific audio you people said was an incriminating audio, putting DIG's lies all aside. Oto Gambia Mansakunda alto bota wuliani fanya foni mo falale. So but it's to make sure that we keep this conversation alive, because so long this case is not coming up until 3 months, we will make sure that every other time we are here to continue this conversation, and we will pick from every angle of their witnesses and of course the chronology of incidents, and pick every portion to tell you how all of those things are fabricated script and lies and deceit by the government. So what amasa kundata ntolobulu sungsulu to leben tolobulu mo jawolo mo falalu ni mo kurungol ni tapale leben tola masa kunda, and they will do anything and everything to retain a government like that. And that is why Noblen Jaral warna nyo Jaral nyo the opposition and whosoever, man, I consider myself an opposition to this disgusting regime, because if it can kill 2 police officers and of course incarcerate a brother whom we know has no hand in it and is not a rebel, then that regime is none that deserves support from any conscious, reasonable Gambian. Well, sometimes when I see some of my friends, they will be like, "Oh no, but it's lesser evil." What is lesser evil? Who is evil and who is lesser evil? The biggest of all evil is somebody who can kill you, because the height of evil is to kill you. After what else can you do? Nothing. Wala nang komninga molje ke fon silandi sala moro. Sa lungo mota balula. Bara balulungo fana mota sala de. Woto fombenga kamben no nyimma sa kundanga wulinge kelolong fay bojang kadu mola masa mujamani manyan tambila sanjetanna. Stop telling me other people who are going to do this are going to do that. Those are just conspiracy theories of evil in your own minds and hearts. Nguur gi dafa wara soppeku. 2026, this government needs to be on its knees, because it's not a good government. It's a government built on lies and deceit. People who are so wicked to Gambians, me along ka jeki kamburo ke dala standing fulade nindo ka ba kala dala standing ka raw fon arrest onyon jowiya be kidding wanne musoli la bungol lo fay pare dala taw ka raw la bungol boy fenten al bal nal faltante wala dal mint kulu bal yala tambi dawal kulu bal yani fallon bal yala tambi dawal albe wandi bal toral al ko moto fala ni moli fa atol be raw la soron atol bu kam malu wayi atol bu kam malu mal bal ya man tambi wala atole mo nek Gambia na manga ka fengol gena dala fa ka Gambian ko tora. You only go to government to profit from government, because you do nothing for the ordinary Gambian. Kon waxtu jotna pour mobe wulinu nga funding kele sembentu yalung nga mobe wul ka tan ni ko nyum sakunda 2026 albe bondi la nyimban ko kanjane mo jamane man nyan tambila sanje tan na nyimban ko ka ko constitution no constitution atolle wultal ko mo labe constitution no deliver la mole. If you fail to deliver it, there is nothing somebody is going to tell us about constitutionality or whatever. The nonsense has got to end. You cannot kill people and continue to be leading our country. You got to go. We look for people who care about the plight of the Gambians, not these disgusting idiots who only look for position and money. So ninga minister dol jewol kono ila ko kambala fale. Gis nga doomi adama num bon amal lo gom amal gom andi lata min na dem si ba jiya man nak leen xam ngeen ko di alla minister linteng alla ambassador linteng mo ko linteng ñoo lonku nda kon to ñene ngati je amut ay tapet raga de ko ñu fi way yow ñun dañ am ku ñoy ragal si yeen pour lan ngeen mun a def ni molu kam malal lay kal xoromay kal buñal kal to xoromo ni buña mo ne lekam mim bekela wala bekela bala la masakunda mo fala masakunda dal la masakunda tine ñanta bannale oto gambian kolle be ñanta be na muruna be na kafunyo kan kaje ko nyima sakunda tilimbalo e boje masakunda na membe constitution kuto fela na gambia masakunda na mi yalon ka gambia no hatila masakunda na mi yalon ko itanna fen sunya landu tawuliya folanye. So it's important that we put our differences aside and come together to ensure that this regime collapses at the end of 2026. Oto badi mo ngal tentu ngal jayi Useno Bojang Kalialo Nyaming is still in prison. And he has been in prison for the last almost 1 year, 10 months. And all lactating system here along kwada dimbal be yundum dinne merang ol babul itanya kara modo ko kolea isi nyaala suwo kono ko kolea eni nyongol jibe nyak kolea pentem foye wulian in tumiro min lay bani ino barinka atara to nyate je wanne mon la dimbal betinya pentem foye to la sulo ni la foka siman sakunda kaje ko ye wuliani tapale yala Usain Dabo nala UDP kam pour e be wala ban la nyame pour to letu continuer la masakunda because ya jalo ko la tinela beje so jonga nala tine tem hani mo fa jarta nyama masakunda do e wala woto gambian ko ala nyanta wulila la kaje ko nyama masakunda jamano e bam kato masakunda kendente mo kendelte je so ngola so pour to basically put it forward so Uzo just as it is, young man, we love you and we will defend you, and we know you're not a criminal. We know you're not a rebel. We grew up in the hood, so we know what time it is, So you gotta stay strong, man. Next 3 months, we're back in court, and then you know what it is. You came to court, you were not panicking. You spoke the fact, and of course, you did so to the best of your ability. Maluta, ila masakunda maluta, dunia be alonko ila masakunda malutali. That the international community could write us letters to say that we commend you for all the efforts you people are doing, and then we are paying close attention to this case. So take pride in that, because you're nothing like a mother. You would never do that. But they are self-protectionist. Some of us have nothing to lose and we have nothing to protect. Waaye nga ñaka lepp dega mu taxaw mo gën nga am lepp dega taxawut fekk ay fen ak reyante rek ay dox ci suñu dëkk wala du fi dox wala baadu nga ngal tentu ngal jay is almost getting to 5 p.m. Pora dino come off and go to daycare, but ala baraka ngal tentu ngal jay, man, till another time. These conversations are going to be continued. We will not let Usain Bojang rot in jail for the next 3 months when nothing is going to be shared about this case, so that it can die down here and there. We will continue this conversation to communicate to Gambians. Pour Gambian koli along ko nyuma sakunda membe je mo fala masakunda long bi Usain Bojang non kunun ko be police la fa jumala long sini mo jumalti, because aj be jar la nyine ko bella pour to letu je ko elo minister furu mo yamin foko na sulata yelo lebe yelo bonnale ngo na sulata mi ngomi nan dol fanam bulumbe wala kala batara yabe dannale ala yalo batara yabe dannale oto baade ngol ngal tentu ngal